Hello, I'm your host JP. Welcome to a grown-up's guide to VeggieTales Podcast, the show where everybody has a baby kangaroo. Welcome to everybody today to episode 3. I'm so glad you could join me again. I'm going to be talking about two things today. The first segment will be about some updates on the proposed VeggieTales feature film being in development at Universal Studios for the past year or two. And also then a topic about the top 5 silly songs with Larry. So JP's top 5, here we go. What do you think? Do you agree with the silly songs that I think are the best and the greatest and the silliest? And now it's time for some VeggieTales news. So, whenever Universal Studios bought VeggieTales a few years ago, so Universal Studios bought DreamWorks Pictures a few years ago, maybe 3-4 years ago, I'm not exactly sure when. So with that package of DreamWorks animation, Universal now owns VeggieTales, and so around that time, a bit later, TBN licensed VeggieTales off Universal Studios and have made the VeggieTales show for about 2 years. Streamed for a payment fee at yippee.tv, in case you wanted to see the new episodes. And so the Universal Studios also has been talking to Phil Vischer, the VeggieTales creator, about developing a new VeggieTales movie. So we've had Jonah, a VeggieTales movie, which premiered 19 years ago this month in America. Then about 2007, we had The Pirates Who Don't Do Anything, a VeggieTales movie, which was another fun one. Not as good as Jonah, but I really enjoyed it still. Good animation, a nice story throughout the 7 seas, a bit like The Voyage of the Dawn Treader from Narnia, that kind of thing, sailing from island to island with a quest and a villain, and the Pirates Who Don't Do Anything standing up. And so the third one would be a new VeggieTales movie, and so just letting you know that the status was that, so what happened was, Phil Vischer talked about this on a podcast a year or two ago called Say Goodnight Kevin. There had been a man who worked for Artisan Studios who was the distribution company for Jonah. You might see FHE pictures in the opening credits for Jonah. That was owned by Artisan Studios. I think it was something like Family Home Entertainment, not sure. So they released it in theaters in America in 2002, and then that executive who worked at Artisan in the late 90s and early 2000s, as of about 2018, was working at Universal Pictures, and I'm not sure if he's still there, but apparently he really liked VeggieTales and had this connection with it, and so he had reached out to Phil to ask if they wanted to Phil wanted to help develop a new VeggieTales movie. At that stage, Universal had not committed to funding the movie, but they had committed to funding the development of it. A bit later, so it was in March 21st, 2020, from my fans_buck Twitter account, I tweeted to Phil, if Universal is thinking about potentially making another VeggieTales feature film, do you think it could be the Bob and Larry movie? They own the rights to that script, don't they? Now, some VeggieTales fans will know that around the time Jonah was released, Big Idea Productions had started work on a second animated feature film called the Bob and Larry movie. Apparently there are a few colour sketches that you can see in the making of videos of the Jonah VeggieTales movie. It might have been the tour of Big Idea, but I'm not sure. And so the Bob and Larry movie is described by Phil Vischer in his book autobiography as, imagine if Jonah was a Sunday school lesson on steroids, then the Bob and Larry movie was Big Idea's Toy Story. I think it was meant to be about the origin of Bob and Larry meeting and starting VeggieTales, and also it was going to be the first VeggieTales film that had human characters in it, which, to be honest, would have been really fun to see what humans live in that house that uses that kitchen Is there a house beyond the kitchen? Is it in a outer space ship? Is it in an alien's house? Anyway, I go too far. So I asked in 2020 if they were going to make the Bob and Larry movie, which never got made since Big Idea Productions shut down around that time with the court case. To find out more about that, you can check out episode 1 of A Grown Up's Guide to VeggieTales on the same platform you're listening to this on. So at that time in March 2020, Phil Vischer replied to my tweet saying, "The desire is for something new with a Bible story angle, which the B and L movie doesn't have. So that's what we are developing." I said, thank you. Good to see a new VeggieTales Bible story on screen, hopefully. An update was there was a tweet in September, and that was from someone called Andrew, at Drew_the Draw. He said, "Are you still working on that new VT movie with NB Universal? In light of recent updates to your status with the Veggies, I've been thinking that the project is probably not moving forward anymore." And that's referring to Phil saying that he and Lisa were fired, considering Universal said they wouldn't be using them for their voices anymore in future projects, most likely. So the question is, are you still working on that new VT movie with NBC Universal? And Phil said on September 5th, 2021, "Don't know if it's proceeding or not. Haven't heard anything about it in months." And Andrew said, "Well, that's a shame. Hope things work out for the best." And without knowing that had been tweeted from my podcast Twitter account, which is at Veggies_podcast, I tweeted that my original response that Phil sent about the BNL movie. So I said, "News last year from Phil about the topic of a new VeggieTales movie which has been in development at Universal. I don't know what the current status of progress is." And Phil replied a few hours later saying, "Me neither. Radio silence from NBCU." So this was from September 2021, which was a few weeks ago. It seems like either Universal Pictures has put the VeggieTales movie to the side and said, "We'll think about doing this later," or they are considering doing it and they'll be contacting Phil any day, or maybe they are doing some work on it, which, if they haven't been talking to Phil about it, I don't know whether they'll be doing any work on the movie, because you'd think Phil will be pretty involved. But then again, he doesn't own them and they might be doing their own things with it. So I hope that that's the case. But first of all, I hope that they haven't just shut it down. And I hope that if they did shut it down, they would involve Phil Vischer in that discussion and inform him. Then he can inform the fans and he can know what's going on. Also, because he's done some work on this, I imagine, to help develop the script and so forth, because he was putting together ideas and potentially a script, but I'm not sure if he actually wrote a script. So I hope they haven't just shut it down. If they put it to the side, I hope we do get it in a couple of years. It would be nice to see VeggieTales on the big screen again, whether or not that's in theatres or on a streaming digital platform for a feature film. Phil Vischer has said on a few podcast episodes that he's done that it's very hard to get a theatre release for a lot of movies these days. Even like Martin Scorsese's latest movie was on Netflix, just released on Netflix, not in theaters, and that was like a over $100 million movie. And so he was talking about Christian movies on Say Goodnight Kevin podcast, and about how it's really amazing that like the Owen brothers or the Kendrick brothers can get a guaranteed theater release in America for their movie, because Christians are a really easy to market to audience. And so I hope the feature film happens at Universal Pictures. If it doesn't, we haven't lost anything in terms of we've still got all the VeggieTales we've got. If it does happen, I'm really looking forward to it. And I hope to be listening to this episode in a year or two, having watched the movie and thinking how glad past Jonathan would be that the movie actually came out. Let's wait and see what Universal Studios and Phil Vischer announce in the next few months or years about a new VeggieTales movie. Hopefully we'll see that soon. Here's on to segment 2. This is our main segment today. It's JP's top 5 silly songs. That's right. My favourite silly songs with Larry songs through the history of VeggieTales from 1993 up until 2021. Which silly songs will make the cut? I'm just going to dive right in. Now, I watched all these today, and I'm very happy that I made some notes. I'm going to talk to you about my favourite things. So, first of all, these songs are from the whole history of VeggieTales, as I said. And you'll see that the order is interesting, the way they come. In terms of old VeggieTales, new VeggieTales. I'm going to call everything up to 2002, when Jonah came out, classic VeggieTales or old VeggieTales. Anything after that I'll call new VeggieTales. That's kind of how it feels. Like even the, late 2000s ones, like in 2006, like Larry Boy and the Bad Apple, they still feel like new VeggieTales for some reason. Probably because they have slightly better animation than the 90s ones, but also they have moved on from their Phil and Mike classic era. Here we go. Silly song number 5. So going backwards from 5 to 1. Number 5 is Pizza Angel. Pizza Angel is a fun, silly song from Minnesota Cuke and The Search for Samson's Hairbrush. So this is a new VeggieTales song. It is a sweet story. You can look it up on YouTube or Yippee. It's a 1950s rock ballad style about Larry ordering a pizza and waiting for it to come. It's a really sweet story. The music is done so well. The rock ballad style is very effective. And it's very emotional and emotive. And a bit moody and atmospheric. So it's a simple story told very well. Larry waiting for the pizza. It doesn't come for so long. Should he have ordered it online? You've got the P Angels come down and sing a nice backup vocals. And then you've got Jimmy Gord, who eventually comes delivering the pizza. And there's a twist there. What do you think Jimmy Gord would have done with a pizza if he couldn't find the place? Well, you'll have to watch the video. But it's a very sweet song. So Pizza Angel, it feels like a silly song, not kind of like a try-hard or fake one. Like some of them do, like maybe like Tooth Day or Hopperina, which to be honest, I've only seen Hopperina once, but it didn't grab me. But they didn't grab me like these ones do. So Pizza Angel is really nice, really fun song, and a bit sad but sweet. Pizza Angel is a new brand of VeggieTales pizzas. So I realized recently that I had seen the lion logo on pizza boxes in Madame Blueberry in the chase scene, and in Dave and the Giant Pickle when Junior takes pizza to his brothers, when Dave takes pizza to his brothers at the camp across from Goliath. So that there is a reference in Daniel in the lion's den in Where's God When I'm Scared to feeding pizza to the lions. So it's something about that now they're going to feed pizza to the lions, or the angels fed pizza to the lions instead of eating Daniel, something like that. But it is funny. And I realized maybe the lion logo with this cartoon lion racing on the pizza boxes in Dave and Madame Blueberry is related to that Daniel and the Lion's Den reference. If it is, it's very clever to have that in joke that I didn't get until 20 years later. But yeah, now they've got the Pizza Angel rebrand for Veggie's pizza boxes. I think that it also shows up in the Robin Hood segment, not in Robin Good, but in the time when Junior is playing in Bully Trouble, which is also on the Minnesota Cuke and Search for Samson's Hairbrush DVD. There you go, I just thought of that. That is number 5 in JP's top silly songs with Larry songs. Then the next one is number 4 is Monkey. Monkey is a silly song from the wonderful Wizard of Oz DVD. It is zany. It's in the new category because it's post-Jonah, post-bankruptcy. But it is really fun. It feels like a classic silly song. Larry has been to the zoo before the song starts, and the lady at the zoo said in like the monkey enclosure, "If it doesn't have a tail, it's not a monkey. If it doesn't have a tail, it's not a monkey. It's an ape." Okay, so if it doesn't have a tail, it's an ape. And monkeys have tails. But Larry's caught onto this, and he's trying to say that anything that doesn't have a tail it's not a monkey, and so forth. And Bob's there, so it's just Larry and Bob on the countertop looking like a kind of jungle, exploring for animals in the jungle. First of all, the music is very cool, kind of like a jungle beat theme. The phrase that I just mentioned, the quote, is actually inspired by one of the writers of the Silly Song. Was at the zoo and heard a lady say that and thought it would make it for a good Silly Song, and that fits the style of the music really well into the pattern and timing and the rhythm. And there's a dynamic of Bob and Larry. So Silly Songs aren't always about the music or even the story. It's sometimes about the dynamic of Bob and Larry or other characters. Because in the VeggieTales, Bob is often trying to run a tight ship, a good show to teach the kids Bible lessons, and Larry kind of maybe puts things off track. I know Phil put it on I think it was also the Say Goodnight Kevin podcast. You know, the thing that he tells VeggieTales creators, like new owners, when he's trying to explain VeggieTales in two sentences, is Bob is trying to teach kids the Bible and Larry is trying to help. But because Larry is trying to help, he doesn't always help in the best way. So in Monkey, the Silly Song, there is a dynamic of Bob and Larry. So Larry is excited about this searching for the monkey and this categorization he's got, and Bob is confused and trying to make things go right. Trying to make things go correctly and trying to keep Larry on track. This is a bit like how Bob says something in another song. So in King George and the Ducky, which is in a way a forgotten VeggieTales episode, I don't think about King George that often, but I do like it a lot. At the end, you know how Bob is in that bathroom of King George, and they're basically singing a song which has like the word weren't or wasn't, and Bob says, I think it wasn't. Yeah, so I think the correct word is wasn't. He's trying to correct their grammar. But because Bob wants things to be correct, he's correcting. That was a really good dynamic point that I thought was saying, like Bob is trying to make sure that things happen right. Although, there's a difference. When Bob is trying to correct people's grammar in the song in King George at the end of the episode, he's very grumpy and grouchy. In this episode, he's more kind of bewildered and confused. One also thing is the VeggieTales canon. Doing shows for over 2 decades, there's been some things in VeggieTales that have conflicted in the canon, and something's brought up at the end of this song. So at the end, Bob says, I don't have a tail. So maybe am I an ape because I don't have a tail? Suggesting that, and Larry says, I wouldn't be so sure, and Bob turns around and walks off the set at the end of the song, and Bob has a tail. It kind of looks like a lion's tail. Maybe they took the tail off Pargrape playing the lion in the Wonderful Wizard of Oz show that they were making at the time. Maybe they took that model and put it on Bob. As one of the audio commentary people said on this episode, is they're not saying Bob has a tail. But it is interesting. I might do a show one day about how VeggieTales deals with its own canon and what issues you can run into during so many episodes. And another comment about Monkey as the Silly Song is that it descends into chaos, like the classic Silly Songs of Water Buffalo and Love My Lips. You know, how Water Buffalo ends with Archibald coming in and yelling at Larry for being so silly, and Silly Songs with Larry with Love My Lips descends in Larry just being quite off the rails in terms of Archibald wants to keep the psychology session on track, and Larry kind of just gets so overexcited and messes it all up. So the first 2 songs, counting down from my top 5 from a 5 to 1, number 5 and number 4 are both new VeggieTales post 2002. Here we go. We've got number 3. Number 3 is the Hairbrush song, which features on Are You My Neighbor? It's number 3 on my list because 2 other songs are better in my opinion, but I know that it's clear that the Hairbrush song is the most popular Silly song. And it's the most popular Silly song for a reason. It takes you on a fun journey, and you meet the characters one by one, and they say their little piece, and Larry is so innocent, and I just believe in his sadness. And it tells a simple story and just has a catchy song. I think someone described it in the VeggieTales crew as like kind of like operetta. It's a story, and it's just got this catchy thing. Oh, where, here's my hairbrush. And I'm not going to sing that well because it's out of my range. But it is a fun song, and I do like how the characters sing their bits. And apparently, like, they were going to all say it, just speaking it. And apparently Lisa Vischer came in, and for her Junior line, she voiced Junior singing it, and they're like, that's brilliant. And then they all sang their parts, which adds to it. I think if she hadn't done that, and they hadn't followed through on it, it wouldn't have been as popular. And can I please say, Larry being thrown roses at the end, there is a look of pride on his face as he greets the audience, and it is priceless. It is very good. And also, can I say, why didn't the Peach become a recurring character? He has such a nice visual design. He looks very pretty. And, you know, he could have ended up being, I don't know, maybe Elijah. We could have him as King Saul, or maybe, who else? Maybe you could have had him as Jonah, I suppose. Would have been a very different movie with the Peach as Jonah. The Peach as Jonah, yeah. So, why didn't the Peach become a recurring VeggieTales character? I know we saw him again in the silly song Oh Santa, which was a Christmas silly song for the toy that saved Christmas. He also is not in the flesh, but he makes a cameo in Minnesota Cuke and The Search for Samson's Hairbrush as Samson in cave paintings, near where they find the hairbrush, and also in a Bible. But we don't see the Peach other than that, and I wish we had seen him as a recurring character. Hopefully in the future. They have brought back old ones a couple times. For example, they brought back Mabel the Pear in Lyle the Kindly Viking, even though we hadn't seen her probably since Daniel in the Lion's Den, I think. There may have been one other appearance. Please tweet me if I'm wrong that she had another appearance in between Where's God When I'm Scared with Daniel and Lyle the Kindly Viking. That's in third place, the Hairbrush song, and here's number 2. Get ready, this is going to be a big drum roll because there's only 2 silly songs left, and these are the top best ones, according to your host, Jonathan P. Number 2 is His Cheeseburger, which, okay, technically this is Love Songs with Mr. Lunt. However, it's counting as a silly song for now, and this is Mr. Lunt singing a love song. It is hilarious in a different way. Mr. Lunt is kind of inappropriate, and you love to cringe at him. He is so devoted to his story, he takes it seriously, which is good. Like, sometimes comedy is about something silly happening with the character being so serious about it. Kind of like when they made Wizard of Oz, and, should we make up like a new kind of funny song or a new version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow for one of the characters, and Phil says something like, all you need to do is get Mr. Lunt to sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow straight and it will be hilarious. And they did that for the credits and it is fun. And there's some nice 2D animation in that too. For His Cheeseburger, this is the only silly song to which I have heard that there is a spiritual lesson attached. I've heard this from fans or online or something. So the story goes that Jerry wants a cheeseburger for breakfast. It's very early in the morning. The place isn't open. In the end, he gets some bacon and eggs at Denny's for half price. And Mr. Lunt saying, Jerry will come back for you, cheeseburger, because you are his cheeseburger. Told in a really funny way. And apparently, the spiritual lesson is, we are the cheeseburger that Jesus has to have so much. And I was thinking about this today. And I thought, is that just 90s Christian subculture hype? If the metaphor is true, why does the Jesus figure reject the cheeseburger for other breakfast? And because he's hungry? Jesus doesn't reject us. But then I thought, maybe they represent different groups of people. Maybe the cheeseburger represents the Gentiles, and we'll eat and be back here for lunch symbolizes God bringing in the Gentiles in Acts through the Apostle Paul. After the Jews have been accepted in the Old Testament as God's people, so that's the bacon and eggs, and we'll eat the bacon and eggs and be back here for lunch, so later on the cheeseburger is going to be had. Is that going too far, and do you follow? So And so I just thought it was funny, thinking maybe there's a symbolism, but maybe I'm taking it too far. If you like my humor of that, please let me know on the socials. Also, taking that a little bit on another track, when Mr. Lunt talks about cleaning the dirty cheese off just for you, is that about God cleaning us if we are his cheeseburger? Is Mr. Lunt speaking about forgiving us? Well, for other news, you can check out the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, to find out how Jesus does save us and forgive us. But for now, I'd be interested to find out if Phil and Micah did say there was spiritual significance. And it seems like there's some depth there, but I'm not sure if it's actually intentional. As an Easter egg, you can see at the end of the song, His Cheeseburger, the same backdrop that Larry has for his silly song, which is previewed, but he doesn't get to sing it. It is the night sky with large hand-drawn white stars. And I noticed that today when watching that. Maybe look out for that next time yourself. By the way, that's probably the only Christian music video ever featuring onion breath, which you see when Mr. Lunt is doing his big solo at the end. So, recapping, we have had the top 5 silly songs ever from VeggieTales. In my order, it's number 5, Pizza Angel. Number 4, Monkey. Number 3, the Hairbrush Song. And number 2, His Cheeseburger. What will number 1 be? Will number 1 be the one with Larry singing to Bob about how Bob can't sing or dance? Will it be the one where Larry is singing about loving his elf when he's got elf ears on? But no. I think you can guess. JP's number 1 silly songs with Larry is Love My Lips. Love My Lips is the silly song on Dave and the Giant Pickle. It has witty and sharp humour, and it is zany without being kooky. It's funny, but not awkward. In Love My Lips, the music is happy and it makes you feel good. The animation is simple but effective. So we have Larry at Archibald's psychology office room. Larry is on the couch. He's talking about how he loves his lips, and for some reason, Archibald is asking him all these probing personal questions, to which Larry has amazing things that he's saying about his great Aunt Ruth and little episodes and escapades while he's been playing as a kid. But with that big thing at the end, where Larry says he already knew 3 words in Polish. So Larry says that this kid, Oscar, in the hospital, taught him his 4th word of Polish. I'm like, Larry, you already knew 3 words in Polish? That's more than I know. I know none. What were those 3 words? Were they words like hello and goodbye? Or were they words like other body parts, like hand? Or were they about writing? Were they book or paper or computer? Anyway, I'd love to know, Larry, what those 3 words in Polish that you already knew were. So, Larry, if you're listening, please tweet me your answer. By the way, Larry's 4th Polish word is my 1st, and I don't know if I know any other Polish words. And I hope that I realize before next episode if I do know any Polish words, and I'll let you know. One thing I love about this song, Love My Lips, is it is very silly, and it's silly for adults and kids. I was almost going to put it down as number 2 and put His Cheeseburger as number 1 because I love the depth and complexity and humour of His Cheeseburger. But Love My Lips is the best silly song because it is truly about silliness. By the way, I did this thing for a church camp about a year ago, and it was an online camp because of the pandemic. And I recorded this thing, and I'm going to say it now. Just listen to what I'm saying. I hope you enjoy it. And I just stood there until the fire department came and broke the lock with the crowbar. And I had to spend the next 6 weeks with a kid named Oscar who got stung by a bee right on the lip. And we couldn't even... Okay. And I'm going to try saying that line, that rap from Love My Lips. And I just stood there until the fireman... And I just stood there until the fire department came and broke the lock with the crowbar. And they put me in rehab. Oh my goodness, I can't do it. Okay, and that is my top 5 silly songs. Let's review them once again. Top 5 Silly Songs with Larry by JP, your host of A Grown-Up's Guide to VeggieTales. Number 5, Pizza Angel. Number 4, Monkey. Number 3, The Hairbrush Song. Number 2, His Cheeseburger. And number 1, the best silly song ever, Love My Lips. I hope you've enjoyed listening to the news about the upcoming VeggieTales feature film. I hope you've enjoyed listening to my discussion about the top 5 silly songs according to your host JP. Thanks for listening to A Grown-Up's Guide to VeggieTales Podcast, the podcast where we talk all things VeggieTales, including asking the question, how do I feel about my nose? You can tweet me at veggies_podcast. You can find me on Facebook at VeggieTales Podcast. And you can email if you want at vtfanpodcast@gmail.com. That's V for veggies, T for tails, fanpodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to hear your reactions to what I said. I'd love to hear what your favourite VeggieTales episode is, and you could tell me, what's your favourite silly song? What are your top 5? I'd love to hear that, and I may read them out on the next show. I'd love for you to join me next time for A Grown-Up's Guide to VeggieTales Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And as Bob and Larry would say, God made you special, and he loves you very much. Goodbye!
Why? 'Cause I love my lips.